In one age, called the third age by some, an age yet to come, an age long past, Thor, the Dragon Reborn, was seduced by the shadow to turn from the light and serve the darkness. Stay tuned as we discuss the most tempting offers from the shadow, as well as the strongest attacks against Rand to turn his own free will. The wheel of time turns and ages come and pass, leaving memories that fade to legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again. Welcome back to Michael Anderson TV. Today we are going to discuss my all-time favorite book series, Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time. First off, I want to give you a spoiler warning. So if you have not finished every book in the Wheel of Time series, from Eye of the World all the way to A Memory of Light, there will be spoilers in this video that will spoil all of those books. So this is fair warning. If you have not completed the series, please turn off now if you do not want to be spoiled. Okay, now if you're still here, today we are going to be talking about good old Lews Therin Telamon himself, the Dragon Reborn Thor. Most of you are familiar with the story and know that the Dragon Reborn is locked in an ageless battle with Shay'tan, otherwise known as the Dark One. Shay'tan is the evil deity of Robert Jordan's dualistic universe. He has his counterpart in the Creator, who, unlike Shay'tan, once he created the world, he no longer interacts with it and only does so through his agent and chosen one, the Dragon Reborn. Now, the Dragon Reborn is meant to serve as balance to the Dark One, and his whole storyline through the pattern is to bring balance to the evil that the Dark One does and ultimately bring balance to the Force. Bring balance to the pattern of the Wheel of Time. He is the ultimate culmination of light and the good of mankind. But the dragon is tempted many times throughout this series to abandon the light and serve the shadow, which would doom mankind in the process. There have been many attempts to force Thor also against his will to serve the shadow as a slave or a puppet, once again dooming mankind in the process. In part one of this series, we will discuss the most seductive offers the dragon was given to serve the shadow. And in part two, we will talk about the attempts to turn the dragon to the shadow against his will by force, violating the dragon's own free will. First off, the seduction of Thor, otherwise known possibly the temptations of Thor. Rand's first temptation comes to us in Book 2, The Great Hunt, when Rand, Huron, and Loyal are hunting the Horn of Valor. The three companions fall asleep one night next to a portal stone and are transported into a world that is a mirror image or a possibility of the Earth, whatever you want to call it, that they're in. While they are camping one night after being transported to this area, a deep fog rolls in and Ishamael, posing as Balsamon, appears to Rand wearing a silk mask. This is the first instance that Ishamael calls Rand Lews Therin. After some back and forth conversation, Rand still cannot decide whether he is dreaming or Ishamael is really there in the flesh. Ishamael then takes off his mask and forces Rand to look in his eyes, which resemble sprawling caverns of fire. Him and Rand then have a little bit of dialogue together in which he tells Rand,
"Look at me, Kinslayer, and see the 100th part of your fate. This is what the power unchecked can do. even to me. But I heal, Theron. I know the paths to greater power. It will burn you like a moth flying into a furnace.
I will not touch it. I won't.
You cannot stop yourself.
Leave me alone!
Power.
Balzamon's voice became soft and insinuating.
You can have power again, Theron. You are linked to it now. This moment, I know it. I can see it. Feel it, Theron. Feel it glow inside you. Feel the power that can be yours. All you must do is reach out for it. But the shadow is there between you and it. Madness and death. You need not die, Theron. Not ever again.
No, Rand said, but the voice went on burrowing into him.
I can teach you to control that power so that it does not destroy you. No one else alive can teach you that. And the great Lord of the Dark can shelter you from the madness. Power can be yours and you can live forever. All you must do in return is serve. Only serve. Simple words. I am yours, great Lord. And power will be yours. Power beyond anything those women of Tar Valon dream of. And power eternal if you will only offer yourself and serve.
Rand licked his lips. Not to go mad? Not to die? Never! I walk in the light and you can never touch me.
Touch you, Theron. Touch you? I can consume you. Taste it and know as I knew.
It is at this point that Ishamael sets Rand's sword on fire and burns the heron mark into Rand's hand, which was part of the fulfillment of the Koreathon cycle, the prophecies of the dragon. This temptation came at a time where Rand was very vulnerable. He had only recently learned that he could channel, and was just told by Moraine in the Armelin seat that he was the Dragon Reborn. He had not yet accepted that fact. The temptation to not go mad and kill everybody around him while also rotting to death while he stood was very great for Rand. We hear it in Rand's own thoughts when he says, to not go mad? To not die? In the end, Rand instead chose to deny the Dark One, or who he thought was the Dark One himself. Though he didn't debate it very long, this is the first time that Rand even considered an offer from the Shadow to take his problems away. He would later be faced with an even grander offer from a former ally. Next, I want to talk about Lanfear. Now, Rand's relationship with Lanfear early in the series is a complicated relationship, as complicated a relationship as there is in this story. He is first in awe of her beauty and her grace, and later fearful but also intrigued when he realizes who she truly is. He forms a somewhat easy alliance with her. She aids him many times, sending her Trollocs to fight against the other Forsaken. She also brings Asmodean to the Aiel Waste in order to train him. She shields Asmodean to help Rand, so he is forced to be trained by Asmodean. And the idea she plants in his head when she reveals herself to him for the first time is one of the most tempting and seductive betrayals he has offered in this series. Now, the Lady Selene, Lanfear's alter ego, comes to Rand while he is in Tyr, after he has taken Kalendor. And she tells him that she's in fact Lanfear, and he at first does not believe her. But she then tells him that they call themselves the Chosen and not the Forsaken, and that they will live forever, and that he too could also live forever. Now, Rand begins to believe her when he realizes that he has been shielded from the true source. He goes to reach for Kalendor, and this little bit of dialogue plays out.
I cannot trust you fully, Luz Theron. Not yet.
She came closer, and he considered simply seizing her. He was bigger and stronger by far, and blocked as he was, she could tie him up with a power like a kitten with a ball of string.
Not with that, certainly.
Grimacing at Kalendor.
There are only two more powerful that a man can use. One, at least, I know still exists. No, Luz Theron, I will not trust you with that yet.
Stop calling me that. My name is Rand. Randolph Thor.
You are Luz Theron Telemon. Oh, physically you are not the same, except for your height. But I would know who was behind those eyes if I found you in the cradle. Huh. How much easier everything would have been if I had found you then. If I had been free to.
Laughter faded to an angry stare.
Do you wish to see my true appearance? You can't remember that either, can you?
He tried to say no, but his tongue would not work. Once he had seen two of the Forsaken together, Agenor and Balthamel, the first two loosed after 3,000 years, trapped just below the seal of the Dark One's prison. One had been more withered than anything could be and still alive. The other hid his face behind a mask, his every bit of his flesh as though he couldn't bear to see it or have it seen. The air rippled around Lanfear, and she changed. She was older than he certainly, but older was not the right word. More mature, riper, even more beautiful, if that was possible. The lush blossom of a full flower compared to a bud. Even knowing what she was, she made his mouth go dry. Her dark eyes examined his face full of confidence, yet questioning as if wondering what he saw. What she saw seemed to satisfy her. She smiled again.
I was buried deeply in a dreamless sleep, where time did not flow. The turnings of the wheel passed me by. Now you see me as I am, and I have you in my hands.
She drew a fingernail along his jaw hard enough to make him flinch.
The time for games and subterfuge has passed, Luz Theron. Long past.
His stomach lurched. Do you mean to kill me then? The light burn you?
Kill you? Kill you? I mean to have you forever. You were mine long before that pale-haired milksop stole you. Before she even saw you, you loved me.
And you loved power. For a moment he felt dazed. The words sounded true, he knew. They were true, but where did they come from? Celine, Lanfear, seemed as startled as he, but she recovered quickly.
You have learned much. You have done much. I would not have believed you could unaided, but you are still fumbling your way through a maze in the dark, and your ignorance could kill you. Some of the others fear you too much to wait. Samael, Ravine, Mogadine, others perhaps, but those of a certainty. They will come after you. They will not try to turn your heart. They will come at you through stealth. They will destroy you while you sleep because of their fear. But there are those who could teach you, show you what you once knew. None would dare oppose you then.
Teach me? You want to let one of the Forsaken teach me? One of the Forsaken. A male Forsaken. A male Aes Sedai from the Age of Legends that knew the ways of channeling. knew how to avoid the pitfalls, knew as much as had been offered before him. No. Even if it is offered, I'd refuse. And why should it be? I oppose them and you. I hate everything. You have done everything you stand for. Fool, he thought. Trapped here and you spout defiance like a fool in a story who never expects he might make his captor angry enough to do something about it. But he could not force himself to take the words back. Stubbornly he plowed forward. I'll destroy you if I can. You and the Dark One and every last Forsaken. A dangerous gleam flashed in her eyes, and it was gone.
Do you know why some of us fear you? Do you have any idea? Because they are afraid the great Lord of the Dark will give you a place above them.
Rand surprised himself by giving a laugh. Ha! Great Lord of the Dark! Can't you say his true name either? Surely you don't fear to attract his attention like decent people do, or do you? Lanfear would continue to tell Rand of the Dark One's desires for him and how she and he could rule the world and destroy all other Forsaken. Lanfear reveals that Asmodean will teach him to use the One Power so he doesn't go mad. She tells him all he must do is bend knee to the great Lord of the Dark, and then they will be given a place right below him.
2 great Sangreal were made just before the end. One that you can use, and one that I can, far greater than the sword. Their power is beyond imagining. With those, we can even challenge the great Lord himself, even the Creator.
You are mad! The father of lies says he will leave me free. I was born to fight him. That is why I'm here, to fulfill the prophecies. I'll fight him and all of you until the last battle, until my last breath.
You do not have to. Prophecy is not more the sign of what people hope for. Fulfilling the prophecies will only bind you to a path leading to Tarmangaiden and your death. Mogadine, or even Samael can destroy your body. The great Lord of the Dark can destroy your soul. An end utter and complete. You will never be born again, no matter how long the wheel turns.
No! Lanfear then tells him that she could take him against his will, and even have him turned against the shadow. Eventually, a gray man comes into the room, and Lanfear releases him to kill it. She asked him to come with her so she can teach him and they can rule together. Rand is tempted strongly about this. He debates within himself whether or not he can kill and attack Lanfear. He calls himself a fool for seeing her only as a woman and not for the deeds that she has done. Rand ultimately does not accept Lanfear's offer to take the Choden Call, the access key to the 2 enormous Sangreal created in the Age of Legends, and challenge the Creator and the Dark One. But this Forsaken, more than any other, came the closest to turning Rand to the shadow on his own free will. He does accept her aid many times, as I've said during this series. He lets her shield Asmodean and takes Asmodean under his wing as his teacher. She gives it another try later in the series as Sindain and visits Rand in his dreams once more, and cries and begs for salvation from Moradin's terrors committed against her. Of course, at this point, Rand has regained all the memories from Lews Therin, and he is aware of Mieren's tricks. But early in the books, the power of the Choden Call is a tempting thing that Rand does not easily brush aside. He finds out later in the series the true power of the Choden Call and is tempted once more to keep it all for himself. It is a temptation that I know many readers would be hard-pressed to turn down. Lanfear and yourself, challenging the Creator and the Dark One himself for true supremacy of the whole universe. That's all for this part of the temptations of Randall Thor. In part 2, we will be discussing the times the shadow came closest to turning Rand to the dark against his will, and by brute force. Stay tuned for that. Once again, if you enjoy Michael Anderson TV, be sure to hit the subscribe button and also hit the like button on this video. And also leave a comment below and tell me what you think of the Wheel of Time, what Wheel of Time videos you would like to see, and what topics you would like to discuss. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Until next time, I will see you guys later.